do have a quorum present. We're legal. So, you better get you one of those chicken bottom rides. I want her to look at her side though. I just call it. All right, the first item is to discuss the agenda item, so I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight on your agenda, on the consent agenda, are the minutes of the June 6th council meeting. Item 4B is a resolution that approves an agreement, project-specific agreement with Dallas County for roadway striping for Type B and Type E roadways. This is in an amount of $15,718. And it is slightly above our budgeted amount, but we should have some savings within there. And that has been in the revised budget, that amount.
Hey, Tony, you're but yeah, there.
Okay.
Can you get some copies of it?
Item 4C is a resolution authorizing City of Duncanville participation with Dallas County in the Hazard Mitigation Action Plan update. This is in 2016, the City Council adopted the Dallas County Local Mitigation Strategy, which was created in 2015. That plan is required to be updated every 5 years. Dallas County would like to apply for a grant to hire a contractor to assist in developing that new plan in 5 years, and so they are asking for us to participate in that. So this is approving a notice of intent to participate. There is no cost to us. Our participation is in in-kind staffing amount of $2,857 of staff time, which we will easily meet in that.
$500
No, I'm sure Tony will put in a lot of time in working on that. Item 4D is a resolution authorizing a purchase of microsurfing, sink, and slurry seal pavement services from Viking Construction. This is part of our pavement management system, so the microsurfacing treatment will work well for certain streets that are in better shape, and this will then help to extend the life of those streets. This is an amount of $151,000 and is within our budget for pavement management. Item 4E is a resolution authorizing the purchase of hot mix asphalt paving overlay from Texas Bit Incorporated. Again, this is part of our pavement management system, and we'll use asphalt overlay on streets that are recommended for that type of work. We did give you an updated copy of the map. There was a mistake on the previous map. It included Greenstone, which was not part of this project right now. And this is for overlay. We will be doing some milling on some streets, edge milling on some, and mill and overlay on others. The milling work will be done under a separate contract. This is just for the asphalt.
Is Texas Bit the same as APAC? Did they come back? They were bought out. I know it's the estimate says APAC, and then the contract's going to Texas Bit.
APAC is who we've been using.
Yeah.
Those are all of the items on the consent agenda. On your regular agenda tonight, on individual consideration, item 5A is the first reading of an ordinance granting an electric franchise agreement to Encore Electric Delivery. Our current franchise agreement expires later this year, and so we've been working with Encore on a new franchise agreement, which allows them to use our right-of-ways. This agreement would be another 20-year agreement. And under the city charter, you are required to have 2 readings of this ordinance, and so this is the first reading. The second reading of the ordinance will be at the next council meeting on July 18th.
we're gonna read the whole ordinance.
We're not gonna read the whole.
Caption.
we're
Read the
just-
caption.
Unless you want Richard to read it all. He did ask the other day if we need to pass it now.
I was really hoping that we didn't have to.
I don't think we've got enough time.
I don't.
What are our choices? What we really do?
As to not extending the agreement,
I like no choice.
I don't think we really do. I mean, it's a non-exclusive agreement, but what it does do is it protects our ability to manage our rights of way, and it also brings in revenue. We're leasing our rights of way under that franchise agreement. So the biggest thing is that we will get revenues from them for using that public right of way.
As a public utility, we cannot keep them from using the right-of-way if the right-of-way is available. Because all this does is govern what the terms and conditions of the payment.
Aren't the rates not set by the legislature?
Well, for them, no, but, you know, basically the Railroad Commission governs the gas delivery systems, and then the PUC now governs the Encore Electric, and then they also govern the telecommunications providers. And so when we have the public right-of-way, we have to make it accessible to all state licensed utilities. All this does is set forth the terms and conditions of that use, so that we know where the lines are, so the lines don't interfere with water lines and sewer lines, and we don't dig them up, and it's a management ordinance, is really what it is.
But they set the rates?
Well, they do, but there is also, we have some control over that through the PUC. We are in a consortium of cities throughout the state that will contest those rates, and they do have to go through the city. So periodically, we will bring you, like we just did an ordinance denying Atmos rate increase because we want to go through the negotiation process with them, and Encore is similar. So we do have some limited ability to fight them on their rate increases, but they are also by law allowed increases for certain capital investments and things like that.
If we decide 20-year, does that prevent, as it did with the red light cameras, does that, if the state decides they want to change it later on, if we've already
Well,
got
for
the agreement
example,
with
if
them?
the state decided they wanted to take away our ability to do the
Yes.
franchise and do it themselves, they generally have to, because of the impairment of contract provision in the Constitution, they would have to allow that franchise to expire. So that for that length of the franchise, they could not negatively impact your ordinance.
So that would give us some protection if Austin decided that they were going to do something entirely different, which is, you never
They've
can
done
tell.
some of that in the telecommunications field, which is troubling.
Okay.
Item 5B is a resolution authorizing a license and use agreement with Rise LLC at the Duncanville Fieldhouse. This is for use of an area called the General Store. And they will basically bring in their merchandise, lease that space, and they'll also pay us a $1,500 sponsorship in return. This is not, for those of you who were on council before when we talked with you about the naming rights that we were negotiating with Rise for the whole facility. That is not this. They have backed away from that. So this is just a space for them to use for clothing and in return leasing that and then providing some other benefits to the field house. The term of the agreement is only through the end of the year. Then there are some renewals. It can also be terminated with 30 days notice
By both parties?
by either party.
Well, I like the deal that you will be able to keep up with the sales since they all have to be made through the city. So we'll know that whatever they sell, we're gonna get our fair share of it. There can't be any cheating there because the city will control that.
So is it the $1,500 and then part of the sales?
That's correct.
30%.
30%. The next item is item 5C, which is a resolution approving terms and conditions of a license agreement between the City of Duncanville and Unite Private Networks. And this is, again, for use of our public right-of-ways. Unite Private Networks is a company that is going to come in and put in fiber optic equipment and fiber optic cable to serve the Duncanville ISD. In this case, the rates are regulated by the PUC, and so based on the number of access lines that they plan to install, we will get about $80 a month. So,
Whether you like it or not.
whether we like it or not. But again, it also gives us the ability to manage that and make sure that they're constructing these standards. Item 5D is a resolution approving and adopting a policy and procedure for abandonment of public right-of-way. As you recall, we had discussions with you on that, to discuss some different options, so we've brought that back now in a policy for your review and approval, and we'll go through that as well in a council meeting. And then item 5E is only a discussion item tonight. And this is to discuss and hear presentations from the various organizations that are requesting hotel occupancy tax grant requests. And then what we would do is bring this item back to you in July, the July meeting for vote, for consideration. And that is all, those are all of the items on the agenda.
Okay, under 2, briefing presentations, item number A is discuss suburban coyote path and related issues.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you recall, when we met 2 weeks ago, staff indicated that we were going to invite someone from Texas Wildlife Services. So this evening, we have the subject matter expert with us. So Mr. Adam Henry, he's going to share with you his knowledge on what we can and cannot do regarding coyotes. Mr. Henry?
Thank you, Chief. As Chief alluded to, my name is Adam Henry. I'm the urban biologist for Texas Wildlife Services. He has some handouts that he's going to be presenting y'all just to kind of bring y'all up to speed. The first one will be who we are, Wildlife Services, and what we do. Obviously in Texas we are a cooperative program between USDA, APHIS Wildlife Services on the federal side, Texas AgriLife Extension on the state side, and then we've got a private entity that we have that's the Texas Wildlife Damage Management Fund. And so that's our program in Texas. We've been in Texas, or a program here in Texas, since 1915. We started with sheep and goat protection from predators, and we've turned into this great creation that stands here before you that last on the 6th, while I couldn't be here, I was in Arlington talking about egrets that were living in a subdivision, and I'll do hog removal, set a hog trap this morning up in Flower Mound, and so we deal with a lot of nuisance wildlife across the state and here in the Metroplex as well. So some of the things about urban coyotes that we talk about, there's a pamphlet or a handout on the second page as you turn that page, managing suburban coyotes. And when we're dealing with urban coyotes, we've had urban coyotes in every major city for many, many years. We know that coyotes don't become a problem as far as taking pets and becoming habituated for many, many years. And Chicago's got a nice long 15-year running suburban coyote study going. And some very interesting things are coming out of that where they know how to understand the color changes on the light, and really neat video of a coyote running across the road there and understanding when the crosswalk sign comes on. So that's the intelligence level that we're dealing with. But with this handout, typically what we talk about on the back side of that page is a list of things that we encourage cities to talk to their residents about. Education is really the key to a lot of this nuisance wildlife, stopping it before it starts, and having social modification with what we grow in our backyard. I heard somebody talking about peaches and having possums eating the peaches here a minute ago when we walked in. Those fruit-bearing trees are a big concern. with urban coyotes because they do also eat that fruit. Garbage collection and leaving it out the night before, whether or not it's in a container or if it's just bags set out on the roadway. We need to talk to the citizenry about how they modify their habits and what they're doing to prevent the problem before it ever gets started. So that's kind of what this handout does for y'all. It's available on electronic form so it can be handed out to the people. The page after that is, and really it's kind of an expert, little one page out of an article, out of a research study that was done. And what I really put that in there for was to talk about the 7 steps of coyote behavior, and that kind of outlines what we typically see. So we start seeing an increase in observing coyotes on the streets and in their yards at night. Obviously, that's when we want them to be there, is at night. Number 2, an increase in coyotes approaching adults and or taking pets at night. So that's just random pets at large at night. The stray cat that doesn't show back up, that kind of thing. Number 3, early morning and late afternoon daylight observances. So in daylight, early morning and evening, right at sundown is when we're typically starting to see those coyotes showing up, and we're in parks and other things. Number 4, daylight observance of coyotes chasing or taking pets. Really, that's kind of what we start seeing, and where the calls start generating from is that we actually saw a coyote taking a pet. I really probably determined that most of the Metroplex is at a stage 4. Just on an average day, any part of the year, we're kind of at that stage 4 on an average basis. That's usually where I start getting involved. Number 5, coyotes attacking and taking pets on a leash or in close proximity to their owners. Coyotes chasing joggers or bicyclists. I really think that one should have been number 6, because number 6 is just coyotes seen at a playground with kids playing in the afternoon at a school or something like that. And so really 5 and 6 should be kind of flip-flop there. But number 7 is obviously the big one, coyotes attacking or acting aggressively towards adults during midday. So when we start having actual aggression, open aggression, that's when that's at the highest level of that behavior that we see in urban coyotes. So that's just some things to keep in consideration. On the last page is City of Mansfield and Wildlife Services got together back in 2011, and we started an urban coyote program with them. This is nothing new. We do it around the nation. We had one in Austin, city limits of Austin, for well over 10 years. That program has ceased in the last few years, so Mansfield is kind of something that we started in that effort. They were having attacks and pets being attacked and openly seeing coyotes and aggression. So in 2011, we came together and started a program with them. The biggest thing is reporting. So we set up a way for the citizenry to reach out to the city and report what they're seeing. So we got with, again, police department, and it's nothing new. It's a who, what, when, and where kind of a form that they fill out. They can access that on the city's website. They can call the animal shelter and leave a report there. They can call the after hours dispatch number and leave a report there. And so now we're actually compiling data on where and when we saw coyote activity. Because as we know in reporting and crime fighting and anything, you have to have data and you have to know what you're looking for to be able to solve the problem. When trapping was initiated, it was for pets that were restrained and inside their fences or restrained by their owner per the state requirements of pets at large. We did not initiate trapping for a dog that was off leash running in the park or the neighborhood cat that got left out and was free to roam the street, because you can't guarantee that animal didn't meet its end by another means. Vehicle traffic is probably the #1 killer of feral cats that we know of, so we're not going to jump and run after just random pets at large. And again, cities had ordinances against for leash laws, and so they wanted to support that endeavor. And we weren't gonna support irresponsible pet owners with trapping of coyotes that may have fallen, something happened to their pet. So as you see there, the color-coded dots start with a green dot in 2011. I think there's one in that mix that you might be able to find, but I couldn't find it. 2012 is when we really started getting the reports and kind of taking on trapping. And 2014, 13 was a pretty good year. 12 and 13 were pretty good years, and then 2014 kind of sloped off there. Obviously, the pink circles are trapping areas where trapping took place. In an effort to remove coyotes, we're not looking to remove every coyote inside the city limits. What we're trying to do is use their behavior to remove the one that's causing the problem. And so we're not, we're still going to have coyotes in town, and that's essentially what this dictates. This shows right here is that we still, even in 14, after we really had quit trapping in 13, we were still having observations and reports, and that's what we still want. But we're not really doing any active trapping after about 2013, 2014. We had kind of gone back into a monitoring stage, and we're still in that monitoring stage at this point. So all told, we probably removed a handful, a dozen, probably 12 or 13 coyotes off the top of my head. That was it that were causing the problem. And after those were removed through a series of years, most of the attacks or that kind of aggression had petered off. Again, we're trying to catch the ones that may be doing the aggression so that it's not taught to the next generation. It is a learned behavior to attack pets. And so we're trying to break that generational education there. But really, I leave that up to the cities, to the council and the cities to dictate what they're going to, how they're going to approach that. It's up to y'all to determine where you get involved and what kind of a program you want. We don't use a box trap, and that's one thing we have to understand. We don't use a box trap to catch coyotes. I have a research study done in California where they have the most human coyote conflict interactions in the nation. And that research study indicated that with a cage trap, it took 999 nights to actually catch a coyote for that researcher. That's a long time to wait to have results, right? I do use a steel foothold trap. There's some misinformation about that device. It is not designed to maim or injure the animal. It's the standard that we use in the research community, in the wildlife community, when we're going to catch an animal. Large carnivores, cats and wolves, were all trapped with steel foothold traps to do relocation and reintroduction programs. And so it's still the standard that we use in the wildlife world to safely capture animals and humanely catch them. Again, it's not designed to hurt or maim the animal, just hold it by the foot. The whole trap itself is 6.5 inches wide when it's set. I don't set in the city parks. I don't go to the golf courses and set that trap, mainly because those places are misused by pet owners. It's very indicative. The morning that I met with, at the time, Chief Fowler, is now Assistant Chief Fowler, that morning we met at one of the city parks where he was wanting to trap, and a nice young lady came in with 2 big Labrador retrievers and unsnapped them right off as I was talking to him why I didn't want to trap there. And she just, I wish I'd have paid her to do that because I didn't have to pay her. She followed cue just right along. She walked into the park, took the 2 dogs off the leash, and they went running around the park off leash and unrestrained. So those are the reasons why we don't trap there. Typically when we were doing trapping, I try to find a private landowner that has a fence. Sometimes it's not I typically don't want a 6-foot wooden fence. Most of the properties we found were properties that had barbed wire fences or fences that the coyotes could access the property, but yet we had defined boundaries to keep general public out of the way. Again, I want to come in and be very effective at catching the target species. I don't need to catch anybody's dog doing this or anybody's cat. So the way we prevent that is paying attention. There's ways that I can set the device, the foothold trap, to limit what kind of animal we do catch. And so we were very effective. Typically within 2 to 3 days of a capture, once I set the trap, 2 or 3 days is what I was looking for when I was on good sign and knew that we had a really good high activity in that area. I typically schedule about 10 days. So on my calendar, when we did that program, I cut out 10 days of coming by and checking that and planning to be there to check that equipment every morning before usually early daylight in that time of frame, early morning, and take whatever animal we had captured out and then reset the trap for that day and that night, and then be back the next day. Like I said, numerous occasions where we had, within 16 to 24 hours of setting that trap, we had the animal caught and removed, and basically all the sightings and attacks would have stopped at that point. So, but that's what's available as far as your options. They can be trapped or they can be removed. Coyotes are on the rabies watch list. That means they cannot be relocated more than 10 miles from the capture site. Quite frankly, they're going to wind up, if you've got an animal that's attacking pets or being aggressive, there's a whole lot of liability that you're going to want to not be involved with, in my opinion, as far as relocating that animal. So that's something to consider. So everything that we did capture was euthanized and disposed of. So, any questions?
When you first started trapping, how did you have the initial data to where to put the trap?
2011 started, that was typically the fall when we actually started talking about trapping for 2012. When we came in that winter, the fall of 11, we initiated the reporting system, and we kind of got the word out that citizens needed to report. We did some educational programs within the city, and that's something to think about when we talk about interactions with the public. You're touching, coyotes are having a very small impact on 1 to 2% of your population. So what wound up happening with our educational outreach, we had the same 30 to 40 people at the meeting each night when we did it. So we started doing the water bills. We sent out flyers with the water bills. We did social media, Facebook, and on the website, on the city's website, about reporting coyotes where you saw it. So we initiated that reporting data sheet early so that we knew where we were going to start at that point. We didn't just hit the ground running and try to just randomly trap. So we did initiate that data reporting system, and then we started trapping in the middle of about 2012, after the first of the year of 2012.
The reason I was asking is last meeting, Chief Brown had a list of calls that we've gotten over a period of time. So it wouldn't go about what we've already got. We would start when
you can do it. You could do it over that data from those data points. City of Mansfield had the same issue because before we implemented the coyote form, they had the same thing with their animal control. The calls that they were getting, they kind of knew where they were having attacks. People were already calling in with pets being attacked and things like that. I held off with that data, not that we couldn't use that data, but typically in those areas where they had attacks, we blanketed the subdivisions with this little flyer that's in here and other information about ways to contact the city, because I want more eyes on the target species. So the more people we have aware and reporting, now my data set becomes finite and I know exactly what area. The dots, the circles in that map represent a half-mile circumference. We know from research that coyotes have a home range in an urban environment up to a half-mile. So that's not really big.
Right.
It's not very big. It looks really big on the map, but it typically it's not that big. So I wanted to get as many people reporting in that area that would see the coyotes, because I knew we didn't have, there weren't coyotes under every bush.
Right.
There's just a finite amount in those areas causing problems. So the ones that were causing the problem are habitual offenders, as I like. They're typically
Right. there
at 5 o'clock walking down the street, and I want more people knowing and telling me and talking to me about where we're going to see that animal at 5 o'clock.
Right.
It's the more data we have, the better our information is. So that's how we waited and held off for that.
So what made you do just a 4-year period?
That was all it was really needed. It's still ongoing. They call me whenever, if we have an attack. There was a goat recently killed, but it was in an environment where we talked to the landowner about improving his fences. So not every incident initiates physical
Right.
trapping, but we do reach out to the landowner and we talk about things that they can modify with their property to help prevent it. Because I can catch that coyote, but if they don't take the steps to
Right.
modify their habitat and their property and prevent it, then they're just going to wind up creating a situation where we're always trapping coyotes. And so, again, we're back to that educational situation where we're talking to the landowner about making modifications to their property and kind of putting some of that burden back onto the citizen about improving their habitat, or getting rid of the livestock if they chose to do that, depending on how many animals they had. But so we've had some, and of course that's a dated map. That's just when we made that map, and we're using it for the city, their city council actually. And we've had, like I said, we've had calls, but the number of attacks on pets has dropped way out. So we're just seeing onesie twosies at this point, and then we're handling them as we go. And
So there's some areas that has dots that there were no traps set.
correct.
Why?
The dots don't indicate attacks, they just indicate sightings.
Sightings,
Yeah,
okay.
right. So where trapping was, say on the west side there of 287, trapping took place. We had some property out there that had goats, and we're having routine attacks, so trapping took place out there. And those sightings that were reported in there pretty much just kind of fell off. As you noticed, in 2014, we didn't have hardly any sightings on that side of town after the locations were trapped and animals removed. So.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. Item number 2B is to discuss the sunset provisions or ad hoc committees and all that with other established boards and commissions and provide direction to staff.
Mayor and Council, wanted to discuss with you, as you know, in there we go. In February 2015, as you know, the City Council established 5 new commissions. 4 of those commissions were established with a sunset provision. The Senior Advocacy Commission was established, but it did not have a sunset, so it was established as a permanent commission reporting to the Park Board. But the 4 commissions that were established were the Virtual Reality Innovation Commission, the Duncanville Sports Legacy Commission, Neighborhood Vitality, and the Social Engagement Partnership. All of those have a sunset of this year of August 30th. So what we wanted to do was to meet with each of the commissions and discuss with them those sunset provisions and get their input back, that we were going to have this discussion with the City Council in plenty of time before August so that we could get direction from you as to whether you want to continue these commissions, any or all of them, because if you want to continue them, then we will need to do resolutions to establish them permanently, as well as you want to be able to interview candidates for those boards. So we wanted to have plenty of time to be able to give this presentation to you and get direction back from you. So we did try to meet with each of the 4 commissions to get their input. The first one I will discuss is the Virtual Reality Innovation Commission. And so when they were established, their purpose was to basically leverage the partnership with Eon Reality. At the time the city entered into a partnership with Eon Reality, we're leasing the space to them. They are a world leader in virtual reality and augmented reality software. And so the council established this commission with the idea of leveraging that partnership. Also, one of the purposes was to help them recruit for students, and then also part to be to help develop a plan to become the edutainment capital of Texas. That was one of the council capstones at that time. Since that time, as you know, and in your last retreat, that capstone or goal was broadened to become a tech-forward community. And so you've kind of backed away from that idea of just focusing on Eon and moved more to a general idea of the goal of being a tech-forward community. The Virtual Reality Innovation Commission, though, during the 2 years they've been in existence, did develop a virtual reality scavenger hunt in connection with the Duncanville Library. That was done successfully here this year in April. And they had also had some discussions with the Economic Development Director about tech incubator ideas as well as the concept of an IDIN. When I met with them and we discussed this, we discussed the idea also that a lot of what they were kind of tasked with either is not a reality. They're not going to be able to help recruit students for EON. And some of the other things as far as becoming a tech-forward community really fall more under economic development and the DCEDC. And the commission agreed with that idea. And so all of the commission members agreed unanimously that the commission should sunset. They were proud of what they did, but they did not feel that there was a need for them to continue forward. So it's our recommendation that the Virtual Reality Innovation Commission be allowed to sunset. Sports Legacy Commission was established with the purpose of memorializing, promoting, and leveraging basketball history of Duncanville. Again, being Duncanville is known as the City of Champions, there was the goal or the idea to officially brand Duncanville as the basketball capital of Texas. And so this commission was established with one of those, with that purpose in mind as well. Again, the City Council has kind of widened that goal now, and your capstone is to be a sports tourism destination. So it's not as much focused on legacy, on the sports legacy, but kind of a more broad overview. The Sports Legacy Commission, in their time, though, they did establish the display case in the main lobby of City Hall, as you see there, and also one at the field house. And they also helped create a virtual museum on the city website that is still on the website. However, the commission has not been able to meet, and they have not met since November. A couple of months were due to the Christmas holidays. 1 month, the agenda wasn't posted in time, but they've also failed to meet a quorum for the last 5 months. And so I was not able to discuss with them or get their input on whether this commission should continue. But in discussing that with the staff liaisons, we feel that the Sports Legacy Commission should be allowed to sunset. Next one is the Neighborhood Vitality Commission, and it was established with the idea of, again, maintaining the value, the quality of life, neighborhood quality of life in Duncanville, and to sustain the housing values and preserve the character of the 1940s and 50s housing. Capstone now is that you have is to create high-quality neighborhoods and parks, so it still fits in with what their purpose was. And they have done a number of things, as you know. Probably the biggest thing that they've been working on is the creation of working with First United Methodist Church of Duncanville on the PIP Days, or Property Improvement Project. And that has been moving along very well. They have completed 3 different weekends now, 2 last year, 1 this year. The goal moving towards creating a 501c3 that would have membership from various entities within the community of Duncanville, as well as a city representative on that board. That will allow them to accept donations and use that for their purposes. Also, the Neighborhood Vitality Commission worked with the Hollywood Park neighborhood and Public Works last year to address a concern in that neighborhood with traffic on Cockrell Hill and being able to get out of Avenue of the Stars. And so there were several things that were done with striping on the pavement, signage to not block that intersection, and that has worked very well. And then also they've been working on the idea of identifying neighborhoods in the city of Duncanville to gain pride and ownership in those neighborhoods. And so they've researched this idea of a sign topper program, and it's something that I'll talk a little more about during the budget workshop. But they are wanting to move forward with that type of program. So they have been very active. In meeting with the commission, they would like to continue as a commission. And based on where we're going with the PIP days, I do see the Neighborhood Vitality Commission as being an integral part of that. And so it's our recommendation that we do establish the Neighborhood Vitality as a permanent commission.
Can I say, as a council liaison to that commission, that is packed full. I mean, there's not one dead weight on that committee. They are always there, they're always working, on that night and planning on doing things on their off time. They are an amazing commission, and it has to do more with the people on it than I think, but that was their passion. I just want to give a shout out to them.
Yeah, and as we work on the comprehensive plan, that's gonna be a segment that we need to really zero in on, in my opinion.
Yes, and they're represented on the
Yeah.
comprehensive.
That's
Yes,
true,
yes.
and thank you for mentioning, I forgot about it, but that is correct. On the draft recommendations of the comprehensive plan, it actually does call out the Neighborhood Vitality Commission as, with some of the tasks, those recommendations. The Social Engagement Partnership then was the fourth ad hoc committee that was established, and the goal there was to engage the community in conversation, to develop the image of a family-oriented community, help develop the brand, and leverage that brand, and basically to engage citizens between the ages of 18 and 30. They have worked with the PIO on the website redevelopment last year. They were very instrumental in that. They've also assisted with the Facebook launch and other social media outreach. They've been very active as well in participating in various outreach events. Last year, they did a survey during the 2016 council election, surveying people at the polls about what they thought about Duncanville and how they could be involved, how did they get information. They've been involved at the Flavor of Duncanville and also at the Christmas parade. The Social Engagement Partnership, and talking with them, they are also working on a number of things right now too, with some other ideas, and so they as well desire that they continue as a permanent committee. And it's our recommendation that we do establish the Social Engagement Partnership as a permanent commission, but I asterisk that because there is a caveat on that, and I will get to that right now. As one of the things too that I've mentioned to the council before is the Duncanville Community Multicultural Commission. And there is a lot of overlap between the goals and the purposes of those two, and this is a comparison of the two, and what they're tasked with, and all the shaded blocks are where the overlap is. And so the basketball capital of Texas and sports tourism, even though that's a goal of the Social Engagement Partnership, really don't see that as much as about citizen engagement, and that's more about economic development. Same thing with some of the items on the DCMC about the multicultural activities and specific events really fall more under the idea of Parks and Recreation Department, but can be a part of social engagement, but is in a more general way. The Multicultural Commission currently has 2 vacancies on the board. I know in the time that I've been here, it seems like I've heard various comments too that there is a certain frustration with board members, and I think there is a lack of meaningfulness to the commission. Right. And I think part of it is that they haven't felt that there's been a clear direction for what they should be doing. I think they have focused on the idea of creating an event without focusing on the broader idea of engagement. They have only met 3 times since September of 2016, and they've failed to meet the quorum 5 times out of the last 6 months. So again, we've not been able to get that commission together. I wanted to discuss this idea with them as well and get input, but we were not able to have a meeting. So it's our recommendation that we disestablish the Multicultural Commission, but we incorporate that mission into the Social Engagement Partnership, with again, focusing on the broader idea of engaging all of our community members, all of the diverse cultures, but focus it more on the broader topic. The Social Engagement Partnership, discussing that with them, they like that idea. They did have some concerns because they were asking me more technical questions about, well, how would you merge the two? How many members is that? And so forth. And they currently have 7 members, and what I told them was that would be a council direction and discussion as to how y'all would want to proceed if you did want to proceed in this way. But I think, you know, their thoughts are that they see themselves as being tasked with engaging the community, and some of the things that they're talking about, some of the projects that they're coming up with ideas, that is where they're focusing on. So again, I kind of think that this would probably help clarify and provide a more clear mission for that group. So those are our recommendations, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. But really, what I'm looking for is your direction to staff as to how you want us to proceed on these, because we'll need to put something on the next agenda to continue any of these commissions that you wish to do.
I have a question. The Social Engagement Commission, did they have a council member to represent?
Every commission has council members.
No. I was a member, yeah, I was a member of the Multicultural Commission for almost 4 years at least, and we never had council representation, never.
We asked council to choose
And they
one
sent
or
around-
two,
they
and
sent
some
around
of them
a
didn't, they just didn't go around. Dennis, we thought was gonna choose every one of them. But he has been a real worker.
Well, I'm retired, so.
But, no, we did have some vacancies.
Okay.
I mean, so yeah, and so Mary Fay and I served on that commission together, and that was one of the reasons why I think the commission went, and, you know, and Bart was there with us, because we never had council support. We never did. We never did. We met with the council one time about a program we were trying to, and the council challenged us to do certain things, and Bart can attest to this. And after we had those things in place, we tried to repeatedly meet with council, and we never could. And now we want to dismantle it, and I think that's wrong. Because,
You can't get a quorum.
well,
They're not showing up.
because the people are frustrated because they didn't have council support. That's why they're not coming.
Do you think that's why they're not coming, is because they don't have council support?
Our treasurer, yes.
Do you think that it would change it if it went with social engagement?
I'm not familiar with what social engagement has done specifically, but I know from, as Patrick says, when any discussion comes up, we're unable to do anything because we can't turn to that council representative for guidance.
Well, if I can comment too, a lot of the commissions have a council liaison, but council liaisons are not at every meeting anyway. So
It's not a requirement for us to be at every meeting.
No.
It's a staff member that carries it to the city manager.
Well, and
And I will say that, when I first got on the council, I came to a lot of the multicultural commissions. And the frustration has always been that they just can't get traction, and I don't know what the issue is, but I can tell you that when I first got on the council, there was heavily, council involvement. And even before I got on, Dorothy Burton, I mean, this is, you know, I think she started the commission, but yet, I don't know if it's their objective, I don't know if it's their focus, I don't know. But why is the SEP able to get traction in the multicultural? I don't know. But I can't say that it's not because of council participation, because I was there in the early days and there was heavily council participation.
well,
One of the little history on that is that under President Hunt from NLC, that was his big presidential push for the year, was the establishment of these multicultural commissions. That was his push. Dorothy picked up on it, and that's how it got established. But we never really defined a direction for that committee. And I've said all the way through, they just floundered. Because council didn't set the direction. And today, I couldn't tell you what direction it needs to go. I never have been able to.
I think council was relying on them. It's a new commission.
it's not newer than the,
No, what I'm
social-
saying, the ideal,
No,
the
it's
ideal
older.
is. And so it didn't come from the city, it came from an outside group. And so we were given it, and now, okay, city, you have to define it, okay, citizens, you have to define it. And we're just like, okay, let's try to define this, let's try to give it, and it just never, I don't know why some committees are successful and some aren't. I don't wanna blame it on the committee members, cause I know a lot of them, and they are go-getters. They are movers and shakers. So I'm definitely not saying it's the members of the committee.
Well, from the get-go, it was, well, what now are we supposed to do? And they looked at, well, are we to get involved and promote the various festivals that we have, the Mexican-American Festival, Juneteenth.
Before that, it was a Citizen 101 course that.
Yeah. Do we establish like DeSoto did with tables of 8, things like that things have been established? And what they found out was that the city was already involved in the Juneteenth and the Hispanic celebration and things like that. The cities are already involved in that. And then they said, well, we don't have any funding. Well, what do you want to do? What different do you want to do than the cities are not already doing? And we never did really come up with what the city ought to be doing. And they wanted to budget, but they did. But first of all, you've got to have some projects to put a number to for a budget, and that never transpired.
And they had one member that bought T-shirts for the group one year. She lived in my district.
Patrick, if you want to merge the name, if you want to protect that name, multicultural, I mean, that's possible too. I mean, the name's the name.
Well, I mean, according to this slide, it seems like, you know, there was a lot of overlap that that the other commission is doing as opposed to the DCMC. Yeah, I'm not really hung up on the name. I'm just concerned of the fact that, you know, we need to make sure that all the citizens and the things that are important to all the citizens are being addressed, or we're trying to have some kind of impact. And that's what we tried to do, Mary, because we connected a lot with the museum, and really that's what we tried to do. But again, we never was given a lot of direction from the city to how we make this work, as Mayor Green said. So,
I would like to see staff work on maybe putting these two together and defining goals. And you can expand the size of the committee. You know, we could set a larger number if necessary to merge these two together.
The ones that show up for the multi.
Do you have any ideas?
I would not go too large on a committee.
Well, I'm talking about maybe 9.
Yeah, I would not go more than 9.
Why, you want to have a party or what?
Pardon?
I said, you don't want to have a party or what?
When you get above 9,
You
it just
can't-
becomes difficult to
can't
manage
control
that
it.
large a group, so, yeah, it's just harder. I mean, 7 is a good number, 5's kind of small, 9's probably at the top end. Just, I would not recommend going larger than 9.
And so with 9, you have to have how many for a?
5.
But my recommendation was this, I would like to see us give staff direction to go ahead with their recommendations and then do some study on how we might be able to put these two together. As I say, whatever the name is, the name's that, so. That would be my
Who's the
thought.
staff liaison to the social engagement, I mean, the city?
The Multicultural Commission?
No, the social engagement, who's the city representative?
The liaison is Cody, the PIO, but I've been also doing that for the last 2 now.
What about the council?
Oh, the council liaison? I don't know who the council liaison is.
See, it's time as we reappoint these committees for us to say which committees we would like to represent from the council. And as Ron said, you don't make every meeting. For instance, he and I both are on the Keep Duncanville Beautiful, and this was one that Ron is very interested in, and naturally he signed up for it. And I've been attending them forever because I'm a recycle man.
Speaking from personal experience, you don't want to go to every meeting. So, at least I do, the ability to file things out, it just seems to work.
But this let them know that they've got a contact, and the council will be there when they can. But they do have a contact to represent them to the entire council. But we'll need to pass around that list when we get everything established. Get everybody to choose one or two to represent.
Does that make you happy, Mary Beth?
I'm sorry, are you happy? No, but that's okay.
Oh.
Okay,
It was frustrating, it was very frustrating. Very.
that's my thoughts. Now, we can't vote on anything tonight, but we can give staff, tell staff that we would like for them to proceed in this manner.
And is it a consensus then that the other recommendations as presented are okay?
As far as I'm concerned.
We will bring this back to you then at the next council meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Item number B. No, that concludes two. Item number 1 and 2 are executive session. And you want to try to squeeze these in or come back after the meeting? Everybody see them? But these two, I don't, let's just start, and if we have to adjourn, and come back and finish up the executive session. So we'll ask that this time the room be clear.
Sure.
Oh, and it's now 6:57, and I will recess the work session. Following that, we will then have our pledge of allegiance to the flag. So please stand.
Our Father in heaven, we give thee thanks to be here in this city council meeting, to be citizens of this great country and of this wonderful state, and especially to be citizens of the city of Duncanville. We pray tonight for our president, for our U.S. Congress, for our governor and our state representatives, and for our mayor and city manager and this city council that is before us. Please bless each of them that they might be able to discuss things civilly and they might be able to seek good solutions for the citizens of this city. We pray the Spirit can be with us of friendship and love in this meeting, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I'd like to introduce Chief Brown, who wants to recognize one of our retiring police officers.
Good evening, Mr. Hugman and City Council. At this time, I would like to ask Officer Jerry Christensen and his family to come forward, please. Mayor and Council, thank you for this opportunity to recognize one of our police employees who is retiring. I want to tell you a little bit about Jerry. Jerry worked as an undercover narcotics officer at Duncanville High School. And people think at age 21, you got to go back to high school, hang out with high school girls, and had no homework. Jerry also worked as a traffic officer. And I tell you, he epitomizes what it is to be a police officer. Jerry has worked for the city of Duncanville for 32 years and 1 month. He has a master's peace officer certification. He has 2 life-saving bars, 2 police commendation bars, 4 certificates of merit, a 5-year safe driver award, which I wish we had more of, 2 civic achievement bars, an expert shooter bar. He was a field training officer. He was one of the founding members of our SWAT team, and he has 45 police department commendations. But to myself, as well as all the other members of the Duncanville Police Department, our citizens have slept peacefully in their beds only because you told the line, you stood watch, because you and your family have spent 3 decades sacrificing for others. Jerry, on behalf of the men and women of the Duncanville Police Department, thank you. We commend you, and best wishes to you for a long and healthy, happy retirement.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You know, when I first knew Jerry, he could have posed as a high school student. What happened, Jerry?
Got older, too many surgeries, and body was wearing out.
Well, I personally want to thank you for being an outstanding police officer. I've known you all of these years, and you've really, really brought credit to the Duncanville Police Department and to the city of Duncanville.
Thank you very much.
Jerry, would you like to introduce your family and just say a few words?
My wife Tammy, my oldest is Chelsea, and my youngest Brandon. All of them, everybody here except for me graduated from Duncanville High School. So,
We got to hear all about it.
so, no, I enjoyed my time here, seriously. It's just one of those things, given the climate of today's environment, time to move on. Inside job, get out in the sun, too much sun damage from being out in the sun all the time. So, thank you all very much.
Well, thank you. Council member reports. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I did want to mention a couple of things. One, we had a budget workshop scheduled for tomorrow with the City Council. That has been postponed to next Thursday, June 29th, starting at 8:30. It will be an all-day workshop with the council. The second thing I wanted to mention was that one of our local residents, Ms. Jocelyn Bolas, submitted the City of Duncanville to a Reader's Digest contest called The Nicest Places in America. And that contest, they will pick 10 finalists, I think, later this week. But you can go on to Reader's Digest website, and you can view all of the entries for the nicest place in America, and you can make comments on that. And so hopefully Duncanville will be in the top 10 selected. But I encourage you to take a look at that. It was a very nice article, and we appreciate Ms. Bowles for her love of Duncanville and the community. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
We have no proclamations and presentations tonight, so we will go directly into the citizens' input period, and we only have one card, and that's from Juan Zuzinga. Do you want to defer until this item comes up on the agenda to speak?
I believe it's scheduled for today, I'm not sure.
It is, let's see, is it on the consent?
No, it's on.
It's on the regular agenda items. Do you want to wait until then to speak? Okay, all right. Next item is item number 4, and that's the consent agenda, and I'll ask the city secretary if she will read the captions on those.
4A, consider the minutes for the June 6, 2017 City Council regular meeting. 4B, consider a resolution approving the terms and conditions of a project-specific agreement for roadway striping for Type B and Type E roadway with Dallas County, attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit A, in the proposed amount of $15,718.50 pursuant to the Dallas County Master Road and Bridge Interlocal Maintenance Agreement. 4C, consider a resolution authorizing the City of Duncanville's participation in the Dallas County Hazard Mitigation Action Plan (HAZMAP) update and the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program using staff time as in-kind funding match, and authorizing the city manager to execute the appropriate documents. 4D, consider a resolution authorizing the purchase of microsurfacing and slurry seal pavement treatment services from Viking Construction, Inc. through City of Grand Prairie Contract 17041 for the unit prices bid with an estimated expenditure amount of $151,000. 4E, consider a resolution authorizing the purchase of hot mix asphalt paving overlay for various public streets from Texas Bit, Inc. through Dallas County Contract 2014-063-6445 for the unit prices bid with an estimated expenditure amount of $309,911.08.
Council, you've heard the cap motion.
So moved.
Second. Is there a second? You second? Okay. Will you please vote? Okay, thank you very much. Under the items, item number 5 for individual consideration, number A is to conduct the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, granting to Encore Electric Delivery Company, LLC, its successors and assigns the non-exclusive right to use and occupy rights of way within the City of Duncanville for the construction and operation of an electric transmission and distribution system, prescribing conditions governing the use of the public rights of way, providing for compensation therefore, providing for an effective date and a term of said franchise, providing for written acceptance of this franchise, finding that the meetings at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public, and providing for severability.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Richard Summerlin, the Finance Director, and I'll talk just a minute about this ordinance. The current ordinance that we have for the franchise agreement expires in October of this year, and so this is a new 20-year agreement that will run from basically October 1st of 2017 until September 30th of 2038. And so there's not a whole lot that has changed in the franchise agreement. We still are getting a 4% of discretionary service charge as our franchise fee. The only thing that we have really changed in this agreement is to specifically define the discretionary charges, and those are listed as DD1 through, I believe it's DD24, and those are available and specified and the tariff that is attached to the ordinance. So getting those items specifically identified that was the primary objective that we achieved in this franchise agreement. Otherwise, it is basically the same as the franchise agreement that's about to expire. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Seeing none, this is the first reading, so there will be no action taken tonight by the council, so we will move on to item number B. Item number B.
Mayor, if I could, I'll quickly read the caption. That will suffice as the first reading with no action.
Okay, please do.
Okay. This will be the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Duncanville, Texas, creating an Encore Electric Delivery Company, LLC, its successors and assigns a non-exclusive right to use and occupy the rights-of-way within the City of Duncanville for the construction and operation of electrical transmission and distribution system, prescribing the conditions governing the use of the public right-of-way, providing for compensation thereof, providing for an effective date, a term of said franchise, providing for written acceptance of the franchise, finding that the meeting at which the ordinance is passed was open to the public, and providing a severability clause and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Okay, sir, that will be entered into the record. Item number B, consider a resolution authorizing a license and use agreement and a non-exclusive trademark license with Rise LLC at the Duncanville Field House, authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents and providing an effective date.
Good evening, council, mayor, Kevin. We're here tonight to talk about the license agreement for the field house as part of the RISE negotiations that were going on in the past. This is only one portion of it that is a merchandising portion that was in the major deal, but we're moving forward with this at this point. Listed up right there is everything that RISE will do, which is basically everything in the merchandise operation, including stocking stores merchandise, all the fixtures, mannequins, and et cetera, to display the merchandise. They will be responsible for designing the new merchandise that will be stocked, restock everything as needed. Any improvements that are approved would be at their expense. They will have sales personnel on big weekends to act as salespeople to deliver the merchandise to the customers, realizing shrinkage possibilities that we've put in a 4 to 7% protection against shrinkage. All merchandise will be priced the same, whether it's in the store or online, and obviously we want to run some sales and promotions that we will both agree on. Continuing that for this, they will pay us $500 a month, which is the rental fee, as well as 30% of merchandise sales would stay with the city, less the tax. We talked about stuff that wasn't in the store as a promo code. Anything attached to that code will be recognized just like it's in the facility itself. The second phase of the financial arrangements is they will pay us $1,500 for a 6-month sponsorship package. They produce a sign, we install it, as well as providing 50 golf shirts for staff to work events there at the field house with our new logo as well as the RISE logo. The city will be responsible for actually providing the space, obviously the back wall of the general store. We're going to have to move some things around in the store, which is minor, to make room, and I'll show you that in just a second. We'll allow them to make upgrades if they make sense, which will be discussed and approved by staff. We'll provide some secure additional storage space. We'll notify them if we do have a problem and obviously look at the video. Provide them with internet. They're only there during business hours. Our POS system will run the sales, so the city takes all the money on the sales the same way they do with other candies and foods and drinks for the facility. Rang in, and then obviously the 70% would go to RISE at the end of each month. And then they asked to have first right of refusal if and when naming rights becomes more of a desire on their end or ours to incorporate. There's the back wall. Everything that's black is a slatted wall that was made for displaying souvenirs and merchandise. So that's where their store will be, from black around to the white right by the Coke machines. You'll see the water machine is the one thing we have to move, plus the little ice cream machine, which will be easily done. With that, I'll try to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is a resolution, so at this time, the chair will entertain motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Will you please vote? Item number C is to consider a resolution approving the terms and conditions of a license agreement between the City of Duncanville and Unite Private Networks, LLC, providing Unite Private Network, LLC, a license for the use and access of various sections of street right-of-ways as depicted in Exhibit A, attached hereto and incorporated herein, in the amount as established by the Public Utility Commission of Texas for the installation, maintenance, and operation of utility wires, poles, cables, other fiber, conduits, and pipes over, under, or along the street right-of-way. Jackie?
Good evening, Mayor and the Duncanville City Council, City Manager Hugman. I am here today to talk about item 5C, license agreement with Unite Private Networks. Staff is requesting approval of a resolution, a license agreement with Unite for use and access of various sections of the public right-of-way within the city of Duncanville for a fiber optics network. Unite Private Network has actually submitted a request to the city to install such a fiber optic network to serve the Duncanville Independent School District. And the city of Duncanville and the Duncanville Independent School District are community partners. So we want to do, all within our authority and power to help them. Plans and specifications for all improvements must be approved by the city prior to construction. Also, they are required to obtain a right-of-way permit. And also, the installation of the fiber optic network must be in good and workmanlike manner and installed by licensed contractors. And the work will be inspected by the city. The license agreement itself is for an initial 5-year term with 2 automatic 5-year renewals for a total term of 15 years. And of course, if there is any breach in the agreement, written notice of the breach will be provided to Unite Private Networks, and they'll be given 30 days to cure any such breach. This is alignment. Is the proposed alignment for the fiber optic network. Unite Private Network is regulated by the Public Utility Commission of Texas. As Attorney Hager mentioned earlier today, basically the PUC sets the rate that they're to pay us, and we basically, other than permitting, we cannot prevent them from going into the right-of-way. Based upon the Duncanville ISD configuration, Unite Private Network will have 15 access points. And so based upon that and the rate set annually by the PUC, Overall revenue to the city for this particular contract is estimated at $970.
Is that annual or per month?
It's annual. So it's not, very much money, so. But, it's a good thing that they're doing for the district, so. With that, I'll be happy to entertain any questions you all might have of me.
My only comment is, it looks like we didn't have much choice. PUC of state of Texas controls the price, controls the fact that they can do it, so I guess we need to accept it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This work has already started, hasn't it?
No, it has not started. No, sir, it has not started.
Okay. I just noticed there's a bunch of boring going on out on Cedar Ridge.
Let's see. But yeah, I know for sure that this project is not started.
I have a good question. What does this mean to the citizens?
To the citizens of Duncanville?
Yeah.
Well, actually, the fiber optic network is to serve the district currently.
Okay, what does it mean to the school district?
Okay, this will result in cheaper fees for this service to the district.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course, from going from copper to fiber optics, it speeds up the process quite a bit. It will mean quite a bit to the school district and certainly the kids that live within Duncanville. It'll affect the entire operation of the school district, and that will be beneficial to Duncanville. Okay, thank you. You've heard this is a resolution, and you've heard the staff report on this and been given information, so if there are no further questions, will you please, first of all, we need a motion.
Move to approve.
We've got a motion and a second to approve, so at this time, will you please vote? Okay, thank you. Item number D is to consider a resolution approving and adopting the policy and procedure of abandonment of public right-of-ways and easements and acquisition by adjacent property owners.
Okay, staff is requesting approval and adoption of the proposed policy and procedure for abandonment of public right-of-way and easements and acquisition by adjacent property owners. As you may recall, the council was briefed on May 2nd regarding a proposed policy and procedure for right-of-way and easement abandonment. And during that briefing session, certain recommendations were made for staff to include certain provisions within the proposed policy, and we have done that. We are proposing an application process for those abutting property owners that hope to, for the city to abandon public right-of-way. So there will be a standard application process, and with that application, there is a fee that will be attached to it. And information to be included in the application will include a reason for the request and the existing and proposed use of the property. Also, signatures of abutting property owners who agree to the abandonment of the property, as well as a list of those property owners who do not agree to the abandonment of that property. The applicant will also be required to provide information regarding the presence and location of any utilities or drainage systems within that particular property, and also legal description and a survey of the area to be abandoned. Upon receipt of the application, the staff will review it, and they will determine if there is a continuing need to retain ownership of the property. They will also determine if the public benefit of retaining the property outweighs the cost to maintain the property. And they'll look at such things as whether future changes in condition would increase public use or need for the property, determine whether objections by abutting property owners override the request of the applicant, and determine if the request is consistent with the city's plans. Staff will also research any legal documents which originally conveyed the property to the city to determine if there's anything in those legal documents which would direct abandonment of the property. So once all of that is done, notice of the proposed abandonment will be provided to the city departments, any affected utilities, and abutting property owners for 30 days notice comments within 30 days of the notice. Okay, the property appraisal and cost will be determined based upon the Dallas Central Appraisal District's values if it is for a non-complex land area such as an alley abandonment, or if it's a more complex property like a street right-of-way, then independent appraisal will be required, and the applicant will be required to pay for the independent appraisal. And then there will be no cost to property owners who own the underlying fee simple interest in the property. But, you know, there's just an easement on top of it because they already own the underlying interest. Okay, council action. Staff will be making a recommendation to council based upon a review of the application. And then if city council deems the abandonment is in the best interest of the city must adopt an ordinance to actually abandon the property. And in addition to that, if the city council wants to conduct a public hearing for one reason or another, then they will have, you know, the option of, you know, postponing action for receipt of comment during the public hearing. And then the city council also will reserve the option to reserve any portion of the public right-of-way or easement for maintenance of public utilities, drainage, and other services. And then also, city council may authorize the mayor to actually execute the documents. And of course, the abandonment ordinance and the quitclaim deed will need to be filed with Dallas County to make everything official. That completes my presentation. I'll be happy to entertain any questions you all might have at this time.
Councilwoman Thomas.
Yeah, I'd just like to give some background. There's some property owners who have alleys, so to speak, behind their houses that have never been used, and it's just an anomaly. And a few of the citizens came up and asked the city if they wouldn't address this, and this is a policy to address those certain situations where the alley's never been used. The alleyway belongs to the property owner, but it's never been used as an alley, and so anyway, I just wanted to give that background information.
Anyone else?
Mayor and council, if I could also, as Councilmember Thomas said, you know, there are times when, in the best interest of the city or the best interest of the property owner, to abandon public right-of-way or public-owned land. This process is based on a citizen-initiated request. We would also use the same process if the city seeks to abandon something for our own reason. We may want to do that. So it would be the same process. Of course, then, you know, we would be the ones who would be absorbing the cost and so forth. But it would be the same thing.
Okay, I see no further questions. Thank you. At this time, the chair will entertain it. Oh, wait a minute. Before we entertain the motion, Mr. Zunga, you wanted to speak at this time? No, it's all clear. It's all clear now? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, the city, this is a resolution, will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Will you please vote? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number E is to discuss hotel occupancy tax, commonly known as HOT, grant request for the fiscal year 17-18 budget and receive presentations from various applicants. Jessica.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. The city has received 6 different hotel occupancy tax grant requests for the next fiscal year, 17-18. Before we discuss each individual applicant's request, I'd first like to talk to the council a little bit about state law and how hotel occupancy taxes can be used according to state law. There's actually a 2-part test for every expenditure of local hotel occupancy taxes. The criteria first is every expenditure must directly enhance and promote tourism and the convention and hotel industry. Under the tax code, every event, program, facility funded with hotel occupancy tax revenues must likely do 2 things. And as you can see up there, first, directly promote tourism, and second, directly promote the convention and hotel industry. And that's where you get kind of the talk about heads in beds. How does the state of Texas, one of the things I think that's important is to understand how the state really defines tourism, what that really means to them in order for us to follow those laws and guidelines. It's defined under the state of Texas as guiding or managing individuals who are traveling to a different city, county, state, or country. So what that means is if it's locals going and visiting an event or going and visiting an establishment, those are not considered visitors by state law, and therefore they do not qualify for funding. Second, a direct promotion of the convention and hotel industry has to be consistently interpreted by the Texas Attorney General as, again, basically the event or activity must increase hotel and convention activity. Again, heads in beds. So meeting the first criteria sometimes can be somewhat confusing. In terms of, because there's no clear statute that says that for every dollar spent, it must bring in so many hotel rooms. And so that's where it becomes a little subjective, and that's where it becomes a little gray. Under the Texas Hotel Lodging Association, which actually works as the governing body for the state of Texas to watch over how hotel occupancy tax funds are used, basically their opinion is this: communities with successful tourism promotion programs generally award an amount of the hotel occupancy tax by a proportionate impact on tourism and hotel activity. So basically, they would like to see that however many grant, the dollar amount given out for a grant, that brings in close to, or at least a proportionate amount of hotel occupancy tax. Secondly, entities applying for the hotel occupancy tax revenue funding should indicate how they will market the event to attract tourists and hotel guests, because obviously if they're doing no marketing, it's not really going to be an effective event and truly bring in outside visitors because they won't know the event has taken place. So criteria 2, every expenditure of the hotel occupancy tax must clearly fit into 9 different categories. The categories are included: first, funding the establishment, improvement, or maintenance of a convention center or visitor center, information center. 2, paying the administrative costs for facilitating a convention registration. Third, paying for advertising, solicitations, and promotions that attract tourists and convention delegates to a city or its vicinity. Fourth, expenditures for the promotion of the arts. By state law, grants for the arts cannot account for more than 15% of the total HOP fund budget that's being used for that year. Texas law does require that even though the arts is an approved expenditure, it also must directly promote tourism and the hotel and convention industry. So it still has to put heads in beds even though it is an art. In order to comply with the hotel occupancy statute, the Texas Lodging Association and the Texas Fine Arts agree that to be eligible for municipal arts funding with HOT revenues, recipients must satisfy the following requirements. The recipients present, perform, promote, encourage, or otherwise make possible artistic events, cultural performances, programs, exhibitions, lectures involving the majority forms, art forms listed in the statute or other arts related to presentation, performance, execution, and exhibits of these major art forms. The second, the hotel occupancy tax grants and events are advertised and open to the general public. Again, it has to invite outside individuals to come into the event. And third, the recipient directly enhances and promotes tourism and the convention hotel industry. So it clearly states that they have to put heads in beds to qualify. The fifth category, funding historical restoration or preservation programs. 6, funding certain expenses, including promotional expenses directly related to a sporting event within counties with a population of 1 million or fewer, funding the enhancement or upgrading existing sporting facilities or sports fields for certain municipalities, which the city of Duncanville does qualify for that because we do have foosball, basically soccer, at the field house. So it does, that funding does qualify for the field house under this statute. 8, funding transportation systems for tourists. So basically that could include bus systems or possibly transportation from an event to a hotel, that type of thing. And 9, signage directing tourists to sites and attractions that are visited frequently by hotel guests and municipalities. After receiving the applications, after they were received, staff evaluated them on the following criteria, and this coincides with state law. First, did the request meet state law and guidelines? That's the most important thing, and we want to make sure that we're all legal. Secondly, under what criteria did it meet it? We have to be able to identify that. There have been situations in the past, and council knows this, I informed you of this last year, where other communities and cities have not used funds correctly, and they've been audited before. So we want to make sure that we do follow all state laws. Number of visitors. Out-of-town visitors is really what they're interested in and really what they focus on. Average amount spent per group on food and other items. Amount spent on hotel rooms. We use a basis of $100 for hotel rooms. In terms of the amount spent per group on food and others, it's really individualized, and we've really customized it depending on the type of the event. If it's a sporting event at the field house, that would be different than if it was an event in terms of expenditures. If it was an event that had booths and crafts and things like that they could visitors could partake in. And then also, the most importantly, total estimated impact of the event to the community, and then the rate of return on your investment, the city's investment to for the event. So first, we'd like to start out with the Great American Sports, basically GASO, or the Great American Shootout. And first of all, so what I'll do is I'm going to go through each, just like I did last year, I'm going to go through each individual request, and we're going to talk about whether they meet state guideline, and then also the impact to the community, so the council can get an overall better view of how much they do impact the overall economy of our city. First of all, did the request meet state law or guidelines? Yes. Under what criteria? It is a multi-day event, and it's actually, there's 2 held in April, 1 held in July, and 1 held in September, and all those are multi-day events. The number of visitors, and I do want to clarify as I go through these, some of the applicants have in town and some are out of town and some are a mix. These are directly out of town visitors that we're listing here, 17,400. The average amount spent on food and other items for all 3 events as you can see, are $334,950. The amount spent on hotel rooms is $201,600. They rent every hotel room that is available in this community during that time. Total estimated impact of event to the community is $536,500. I do want to go back, and I apologize, just step back one step. In terms of the amount, we talked about the average amount spent on hotel rooms, and this is something I'm going to clarify as we go through each applicant or each request. So $201,600 actually equates to $14,112 for city hotel motel taxes. So that's basically what the city will be collecting for the city budget. Moving on, the rate of return on grant investment to the community, the total estimated impact of the event to the community, you can see it's over $500,000, $536,500. That's huge. The rate of return, because what we're looking at there is we're looking at the amount that they're requesting versus the total estimated impact to the community, and it's over 1,000% in terms of our rate of return. So this obviously goes to show that this is definitely an event well worth investing in and supports our community. How much is requested? They've requested $25,000. Last year, they requested $15,000, and previously, they did not request any money at all. What's the funds being used for? They'll be used for offsetting the rental of Duncanville facilities. And they will be, our reporting requirements have really tightened over the last couple years. Every event, every activity that is held, the applicant or the recipient of the grant is responsible for submitting a post-event report form. And what that does is it really documents the number of visitors that have come to the facility or the event and how those funds were used, just to ensure for transparency purposes. Moving on, the next event that's requested funding is the Smoke and Blues and Barbecue Festival. And again, we're going to walk through this again. Did it meet state guidelines? Yes. Under what criteria? It's a multi-day event. The number of visitors, 14,000. This will be their second year. Amount spent, the average amount spent, about $392,000. And again, even though the number, it's only a 2-day event, they do have vendors and that type of thing. So that all impacts the overall expenditure of each individual person. The average amount spent on hotel rooms is $5,000, and that equates to $350 that the city would receive in hotel motel taxes back. The total estimated impact of the event to the community is $397,000. And again, if we look at our rate of return, so that's the amount of the grant that they're requesting versus the economic impact of the event to the community, it's again over 1,000%. In terms of how much they're requesting, they are requesting $34,500, and again, last year they did not request any funding at all. You can see there, and I do want to point out, if you add those numbers up, these are how they would like assistance. It would be advertising. I know that doesn't equal $34,500. That's really how they would allocate funds. In terms of the $34,000 $500 that they're requesting, that would be for advertising, and that would be for their concerts and the cost associated with their bands, and then signage. And Mr. Douglas is here, and he'll go into that further with you here in just a little bit. Again, they would be required to submit the post-event form, as we talked about earlier, and to sign an agreement with the city. The Sandra Meadows basketball tournament, let's walk through it again. Obviously, it meets state law. It is a multi-day event. The number of visitors, and again, these are out-of-town visitors for this event, is 4,500. The average amount spent on food and other items is $86,625, and the average amount spent on hotel rooms is $40,000, which equates to the city collecting about $2,800 for hotel motel tax. The city does, when you go to, and we talked about this last time, when a visitor does come to the community, they pay a 13%, and this is standard pretty much across the state. They pay 13% taxes, hotel motel taxes. The city gets 7%, and the state gets the other 6%. So this is how we're coming up with this dollar figure. And looking at the total estimated impact of the event to the community is $126,625. And again, if we compare that to the amount that they are requesting, it's a 217% rate of return on our investment. They are requesting $40,000. They did request $38,000 last year. The funds would be used to offset the cost of the Duncanville room rentals for the event. And again, they're going to be responsible for providing their event reports and also following our agreements. The Duncanville Chamber of Commerce is also asking or looking for funding again. Last year, the City Council voted to recognize them as the official visitor center for the City of Duncanville, and therefore provided funding to do so. They are asking again this year to, that agreement expires November 11th of this year, so we would be bringing back, if the council so chose to move forward, we'd bring back another agreement at a later date. But this is really what it breaks down to. It does meet state guidelines because obviously a visitor center, as I read earlier in the statute, does qualify. Just given the numbers, and again, this is the first time that they've really been tracking this extensively, and it looks like that they'll track just over 2,100 contacts with visitors a year. That's walk-ins, and that includes telephone calls. And this does not include, Jessica James just walking in to visit with the chamber. These are actual visitors. In addition, it also includes those contacts that they have through the hotels with the visitor groups that come in. We do provide visitor packets when those are requested to different groups. So moving on, we really don't, the other things really don't apply, but in terms of what they're requesting, they are requesting $18,000 this year. Last year, they requested $14,400. Again, this is for the maintenance and operation of the visitor center. And again, I spoke to earlier in terms of that we already have a current agreement with them, and they're doing a great job in terms of being our visitor center. And we work very closely with them in terms of the visitor packets and with the hotels when needed. So the Duncanville Community Theater, these two next grant requests, these are where the arts requests come in. And so they do qualify under state law through the arts. Number of visitors is approximately 2,300. We're really unable to calculate the amount spent on food and other items at this time. The amount spent on hotel rooms is $1,200. They've estimated that about 12 people have stayed in the hotel. And so that equates to $84 for hotel motel tax collections. And the other information in terms of rate of return, simply because of unavailable information, we're just unable to calculate that. But it does qualify under state law by the arts. So they are asking for $30,000, and last year they asked for the same amount. In your packet, you'll see what they used those funds last year for. Those were for their advertising purposes, social media included in there, as well as their production costs, which is a large bulk of their cost to put on the shows. Again, DCT will be required to provide documentation on their post-event form that they did meet the first criteria by state law. Basically, they put heads in beds, and they have done that. If you look at their backup packet, they are providing that information through their coupons and things like that currently. And so they'll continue to be required to do that if they're awarded a grant for next year by council. Moving on, the Museum of International Cultures, and I do want to point out that their name this year has changed. It used to be the International Museum of Cultures, and so now it's the Museum of International Cultures. Obviously, they do qualify under the arts statute. The number of visitors, they estimate about 30,000 a year. They do keep a log, and they do host a number of different small groups and events that come in on a regular basis. However, just simply because of the nature of the data, we're really unable to calculate the average amount spent because they do have a lot of groups that come in and then they move on to other communities. And you'll hear that in Mary Faye's presentation here in a little bit on their tours and things like that. The number of hotel rooms rented, basically about 24, and so that equates to $2,400, or $168 that the city will receive back in hotel motel tax collections. The Museum of International Cultures is requesting $40,000. Last year they received $24,800. I do also want to point out that last year they did receive a grant as well for the pole sign, which looks fantastic, and it is up right now, and we're getting ready to close out that grant at the end of the week. So it looks great. I think it was a great addition. I think it's Mary Faye will probably attest that it's really helped and really worked what those dollars are for, but really helped to bring in visitors off Highway 67. You can see what the funds are proposed to be used for. She would also like to have a convention or visitor information center at $5,000, and advertising for about $15,000, promotion of the arts, $15,000, and then $5,000 for her historical tour that comes through. If awarded a grant, they would be required to provide documentation on their post-event form that indicates that they did meet the first state law, and also how those funds were used. And you'll see in your backup packet. Currently, we get a quarterly report from them. That's how that works, and it's the same with the theater. And they do provide those receipts and that type of thing on how those funds are used. So in saying, I know that was a lot, in saying all that, I'd first like to see if there's any questions, and then I also have the individual applicants present tonight. Steve Martin, Mr. Martin's the only one with the Chamber and the Sandra Meadows Foundation that was unable to attend. He has prior engagements out of town. So I'd first like to see if there's any questions from the council directly from me.
I just want to know if we're in budget, if all these together, if we're in budget for
Yes,
the hotel.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We do have adequate funds to cover these. That is correct for FY 17-18. Yes, ma'am.
My first question is really maybe some clarification. Who's responsible for gathering the data for those 7 points? Is it each individual event?
That is correct. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Well, how do they determine or calculate the amount of food the amount is spent on food and other items? How do they do that?
Okay, well, we do use a third-party company as well as staff. They both do analysis on each individual event, and basically there's a dollar set figure. It depends, like I said, if it's a day event or if it's a 2-day event, and also what type of event it is. So it can range anywhere. If it is a single event, it can range anywhere from $15 to $19. And then if it's a multi-day event where there's vendors and that type of thing, it can range up in the $25 range.
And I know for the barbecue fest, because it was here, that may be a little easy. But the other money, when they spend the money on food, is that in establishment here in Duncanville or just in the area, or?
Well, we would hope that it would be in Duncanville. However, obviously it could be in the area.
Okay. And I noticed on quite a few of them that the amount spent on hotels is usually lower than the amount spent on food. Is that normal?
The reason for that, the hotel room rate is, like I said earlier, about $100. But a lot of what that goes to show is that there's a lot of people who either they are not true visitors in terms of they're not staying here overnight. They might be day visitors, or basically that they're not spending as much. They might stay, let's say, at the field house. They might stay at the field house and eat there, or they might go out and eat at restaurants. So it just kind of varies.
Okay, I was really looking at the two, well, the Sandra Meadows and then the Great American Shootout. I mean, because it was just really, if you go back to that one.
Okay, so here's the Sandra Meadows.
Go back to the Great American and see. Okay, you see, it's almost $130,000 more in food than it was for the hotels.
Right, and also that includes gas, and it includes shopping, and so there's a variety of things. It's not just straight food.
Okay.
And those numbers that we use are based on industry standards, so they're just not abstract numbers that we utilize.
Well, in the past, too, they've gone to some of the major restaurants and asked them, how was your volume during this 3-day tournament? And they say, well, we were up 35% or something like that. So that gives kind of an estimate of what's going on.
Okay, no other questions? Okay, so at this time, we do have the following individuals here. Mike Kunstat's here with Gasso, and then we have Michael Douglas with Smoking Blues and Barbecue Festival, and we have Amy Jackson with the Duncanville Community Theater, and Mary Faye Cam with the Museum of International Cultures. I first would like to ask your patience because they all do have, for the most part, have presentations. So it'll take just a minute to cue those up, but I would ask for your patience. So we will first start with Mike Kunstat with the Gasso tournament. And so he will just come up and visit with you shortly and give you an overview of that.
Good evening, Mayor Green, members of the council, City Manager Hugman. My name is Mike Kunstat. I'm the owner and founder of the Great American Shootout, and I'm really honored and want to tell you, first of all, thank you for your support of the Great American Shootout since we arrived here in 2010. So we've been here for 7 years, and we've enjoyed every moment of it. Jessica James did a great job. Some of the points I was going to make, she made, so rather than being repetitious on, I might re-emphasize some of the facts. And I think the main thing is the hotel occupancy tax and the hotel nights taken. We have 2 events in the spring, as you mentioned, in April, the big one in July, and we have at least 2 nights of occupancy on all 3 of those. And in the July one, we usually have 3 nights of occupancy and sometimes even 4 nights of occupancy with these teams. So every hotel in Duncanville and in the area is definitely taken by the Great American Shootout teams. And I might also mention that you were asking the question about the restaurant dollar figure. We have a lot of teams that are area teams, like from Plano, Louisville, Fort Worth area and whatever. They may not be staying, but they may come and play like a 1 o'clock game and then play again and say it's 6 o'clock in the evening. Rather than go back to Plano or back to Fort Worth or whatever, they'll stay here and they'll go to the restaurants and eat here if they don't eat at the field house. And rather than go back, spend an hour, hour and a half at home and then come right back to Duncanville. So that's where a lot of the dollars are spent also, at restaurants, at retail stores, at Costco's, places such as that, service stations. So creating not just revenue for or from the hotels, but also with industry within the city of Duncanville. I really feel like I say, Jessica did a great job of presenting the information, but I just want to let you know that we definitely enjoy being here. You've been a great host city to us. We came here kind of, I don't know whether it's fate or luck. We were up in Denton for 16 years. This is our 29th year of the Great American Shootout. We started in the Mid-Cities area. We were there for 6 years, outgrew that area, went up to Denton in North Texas and the Denton ISD. And in that 16th year, the NC2A changed the rule. The NC2A is a governing body of collegiate sports, and they said that Division I schools cannot host out of school activities. In other words, like Duncanville High could play on their campus, but a non-scholastic school or non-scholastic event cannot. So we had to start looking for a place to play, and whether it was fate, luck, whatever, at the same time, the Duncanville Fieldhouse was being converted from an ice arena type fieldhouse into a 6-court basketball excellent facility. So we felt very blessed that the timing was such that we were able to come here to Duncanville, like I said, in 2010, and be able to have the Great American Shootout here. And we're very happy. We don't plan on going anywhere else. We would have stayed in Denton had the NC2A probably not changed that rule. But we're excited to be here, happy to be here, and plan on being here. I hope that what we've requested as far as hot tax dollars would be accepted at your July board meeting or council meeting, and we would use those funds to help offset the cost of the rental of the field house, as well as the rental of the Duncanville ISD facilities, the gyms that we use in the Duncanville ISD. So once again, we're pleased to be here, and I just say I'd open up to any questions you may have that I can hopefully answer for you.
Mike, how do you
Yeah.
like the new floors?
I love it. They're bright. Well, one thing, they're even as far as the structure on. Before, you had warps in some of the places on the floor, and you had wet spots, in some of the corners. But the floor is a very lively floor. The players love playing on it. We'll have approximately, I should have mentioned this earlier, we'll have approximately 400 plus college coaches in attendance at this one next month in July. We'll have over 450 teams from all over the country. We've even had some from Australia, from China, from Mexico, the Bahamas. I'm not saying we'll have all of those again this year, but we will have 450 plus teams this year. They really say that's a great floor to play on. The kids love playing there. The coaches enjoy watching them play there. And the tournament was set up initially, and it still is, for the college coaches to be able to evaluate players and decide who they want to recruit. Where else could almost 5,000 kids in a 4-day weekend go to have that many coaches see them play and get an opportunity to further their education through a basketball scholarship than being right here in Duncanville at the Duncanville Fieldhouse. So it's served a great purpose, and we're just really excited, like I say, to be here. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I'd like to thank you. I know you have other options. I know you could go other places, but I want to thank you for partnering with Duncanville and bringing basketball to this part of the region. And that's just what I want to say. Thanks.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Council, as I said earlier, Michael Douglas with Smoke and Blues Barbecue and Festival is here. We will, so he can come up, and he would first like us to show you this little video, so we'll cue that up, and then he will speak with you.
Okay, that brings back some memories from last year. I hope all of you got to come and visit with us. I saw a lot of you out there. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mayor Green, Manager Hugman, appreciate you having me here tonight. Let me give you some highlights from last year. We had 24 competition barbecue teams that participated, exceeding our first year expectations. Excellent to very favorable reviews were given to us by all the teams and the IBCA, which was the sanctioning body. We had 20 participants for the kids cook-off with excellent community involvement and excitement. The event brought in 6 live blues bands that entertained the crowds over a 2-day event. Excellent reception by the public and community. Over 14,000 people attended the festival based on ticket sales over the 2 days with no problems reported. Community got involved with over 150 volunteers lending a hand to see the event get off on the right foot. The partnership between the City of Duncanville, Lions Club, Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, sponsors at all levels made this happen and made it a true community event worth having. We had bounce houses, food vendors, arts and craft vendors, and a little something for everyone to enjoy. Kroger's People's Choice barbecue tasting and competition was a huge success. And the project brought festivals back to Duncanville, which we wanted to do, and demonstrate it could be pulled off and benefit the community. Going forward, we've entertained a new sanctioning body for this year. Last year we were with the IBCA, which is the International Barbecue Cookers Association, which is primarily headquartered in Texas. I went out and negotiated and talked with the Kansas City Barbecue Society, which is the big dog in national barbecue competitions. They're nationally known, and all the big dog competitors run with them. They are going to be our sanctioning body going forward. We'll be one of 8 events in the state of Texas for KCBS. The teams I've talked to also are very highly recommend KCBS as a sanctioning body due to the judging, and we'll have judges coming in from all over the country. We've already gotten applications and reservations coming in for people coming from all over, from West Coast to East Coast, to be judges. We have 50 rooms blocked off at 4 of the major hotels in Duncanville, and we're looking to add a where to stay page on the website promoting the Make It a Weekend event. We'll also be promoting the hotels in all of our advertising and media activity. We plan to utilize some of the funds to subscribe to reservation services that gives us access to approximately 70,000 arts and crafts vendors so that we can expand the opportunity for the attendees to have a higher and larger number of vendors to choose from during the festival. Our goal is to have at least twice as many competing barbecue teams for the barbecue kickoff in 2017 than we had last year. So we've got to expand and make this thing bigger. We're looking forward to working with the city of Duncanville and making this an annual major event. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the festival that they have, the blues festival they have in Bedford. Anybody familiar with that? Bedford started off kind of like we did many years ago, about 20 years, I think. And they've grown that thing into a huge success. And I'm understanding they net over $300,000 a year for the city coffers. So, I mean, this can be one of those type of events if we nurture it properly. And that's all we're looking for, a helping hand. And we rolled the dice last year, worked out for us. We thought it was a very successful event. And we hope you to consider our request for this year.
You're bringing in judges this year. You mean you won't have any local judges?
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Green, you won't be able to taste the barbecue for free this year, but no, the Kansas City Barbecue Society, you have to be registered and take classes to be a judge. And that's why the barbecue cookers like them so much better, because they know they're getting true competition judging taking place. It critiques their barbecue, whereas, I mean, you know, we had fun with it last year. We all loved to eat the barbecue, but, you know, well, Kevin here, you might not know the difference between a brisket and a rib. Who knows?
We're going to sign up for this class.
I'm sure he did. But anyway, if you want to be a Kansas City barbecue judge, you have to take a class and be certified. But they are coming in from all over the country. So.
Well, thank you, because it was great.
Right,
Any
thank
further
you.
questions? Okay, well, one of you, go ahead.
And are you using different forms of barbecue?
Are we using different forms?
Yes, like the Memphis style, the
Well,
Texas style.
Everybody cooks the barbecue to their style.
Right.
And, you know, Kansas City barbecue is not what we consider down here in Texas.
Right.
Because they're more pork than anything else, but it's just the Kansas City Barbecue Society. And it's a national organization.
Right.
The people who come from wherever, they're going to cook the barbecue that they cook. There'll be people coming in from out of state. A lot of these teams, and guys over east of the Mississippi, they don't know what beef is. You know, you get down here in Texas, and we're all about brisket. But
Well, I tasted it in North Carolina, and I'll send that back to North Carolina.
yeah, it's a little bit different in every region.
It's vinegar based.
That's right. But the blues bands are great. The people enjoyed the music and the entertainment and all the bounce houses. And it was a great family event, and we hope to build on that.
Lisa?
Yeah, I want to commend you for bringing this festival in the Lions Club. It's a festival that the city, the municipality isn't involved in. It's private, and if other people want to bring festivals to town, you know, this is the way to do it. You know, Dennis and I went to the Juneteenth festival, I guess it is. And that's great, and it's wonderful, but city workers are there, the city workers have to put it on, and it's something that the city has to pay for. But to have private ones come in, and we'll do the public ones, but everybody wants more festivals. Well, the city can only do so many. So to have these private ones come in is just great, and I commend you, and if you want to bring in more,
Well,
Go
it takes,
for it.
it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, I
you
know it
you
does.
And the Lions Club.
That's why I appreciate it.
We're not a real sprite group.
yeah.
I'll be 61 years old this year, and I'm considered one of the pups. So we're kind of getting along in the tooth.
Anybody
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to add that a couple of weeks ago, I heard from the governor's office, state of Governor Abbott is going to proclaim the Smoking Blues Festival as a state cook-off for us.
Great. Thank you, Gary.
Okay, and the next individual applicant is Amy Jackson. She's with the Duncanville Community Theater, and she has a presentation, so please give us just 1 minute. to do that.
Oh, good. That one's the forward. Okay, thank you. Good evening, City Council, Mayor, City Manager. Thank you very much for this opportunity to come before you and tell you a little bit about Duncanville Community Theater. In the past, I have done presentations that pretty much recapped our season. Tonight, I'm going to concentrate primarily on how we have utilized the theater to promote Duncanville, to promote tourism, and in the hotel industry. So if you will bear with me here. To begin with our mission statement, which I think is important, Duncanville Community Theater is committed to providing quality live theatrical performances, as well as theater education and outreach opportunities for all ages. Performances will include a wide variety of approved dramatic works, along with untried original works where applicable, with extensive audience appeal. Performances will feature amateur performers and technicians directed by experienced theater professionals. And I think this goes to tourism because one of the things that we hear consistently, we have patrons who come from McKinney, from Plano, and they come to see nearly every show. And one of the reasons that they cite that they come is the professionalism and the fact that we do use experienced, trained professionals to direct the productions. And so it's at a level that you don't always see in some community theaters, and we're proud of that. What we do 6 diverse productions a year. We have theater workshops for all ages. We are right now finishing up our K through 6 workshop, and it's always a lot of fun. We've got a great group of kids, and they'll be doing a performance at 10 o'clock Friday morning at the theater if you'd like to drop by and see what they do. The cool thing there is, once again, that does promote tourism because we have a lot of grandparents that come from all over the Metroplex, and they are not missing that grandchild's performance. They come and they watch and they eat. They don't stay in a hotel, but they do certainly help the economy and do their bit. Our leadership includes the board of directors. We have an executive director, which is me. We also have a community relations coordinator and / operations assistant, an education director, and a technical coordinator. I might point out that we do not have any full-time staff. Everyone is considered a volunteer, and these particular people up there receive a small stipend, but we don't have any full-time, actually salaried staff. 2016-2017 show data. We did 36 performances, 6 productions, 6 shows per production. We had 2,072 audience members, approximately 178 volunteers, and our total production income was $25,882 for tickets and concessions. Our 2016-17 shows, we did 6 shows, and up there you'll see them. The top left is the Sunshine Boys. The center is Faith County. The one on the right at the top is the premature, no, I'm sorry, that is not the Premature Corpse. That is Lunch with Mrs. Baskin. The bottom left is the Premature Corpse. The center is Tuesdays with Maury, and the bottom right is Punt Boys and Dinettes. It was our musical. I will point out that Punt Boys and Dinettes was well received, and we had a group of 10 come from Fredericksburg to see it because they had seen on the Texas Nonprofit Theater's website that we were doing, and it's a favorite. They didn't stay in a hotel. They all trekked back to Fredericksburg that night. I tried to beat them into submission in the lobby, but I was not successful in that. Our advertising and marketing, what we do, we have a mailing list of approximately 300 folk. I think I did a count today, it's 277. That one continues to go down. 20 years ago, that mailing list was at about 800, but these days a lot of folk prefer email. So we try to reach them however they prefer to be reached. We do a minimum of 2 mailings per production. 42% of our mailing list is outside of Duncanville. We do track the zip codes and look at that. Constant contact emails to approximately 800. Those go all over the world. I mean, literally all over the world. We know some of that through our Facebook information. They don't necessarily always give us where they're from. But if you look at our constant contact and then our Facebook response, we have folks from India, from England, from Ireland, all over the place who have liked our Facebook page and responded, and we know that they've signed up for the emails as well. We exhibit at the Flavor of Duncanville, so we do reach out to folk there. We do print advertising in the Southwest Now magazine, which does go to all of the best Southwest cities. It's not just Duncanville. We do 7 ads a year at a minimum. Actually, last year we did 8 ads through Southwest Now. We provide internet exposure via our website, dctheater.org, and our Facebook page. We've done several Facebook boost and blast, and we've gotten a lot of success from that. We promote DCT via TripAdvisor. There are 2 or 3 really cool comments on there if you visit the TripAdvisor page sometime. And then we also have a billboard, a 12-foot by 24-foot billboard on I-35. It's on the southbound access road. You can see it if you're driving northbound. So it's facing the northbound on the southbound side. Southwest Now ads, those are some examples. We try to promote it. We like that nighttime picture of our theater that's also on the visitor's guide. It's a great look for the city, and we think it's important to do that. The one I didn't put up there was we ran a Christmas ad that promoted the hotels and said, if you're staying for the holidays, book a stay, and your guests will receive a 50% discount on any future DCT production. And I don't know if anybody bought it or not. This is our billboard. It is on, as I said, it's between Pleasant Run and Beltline on I-35, and it's big. It doesn't look like it in that picture, but it's a nice size, and it does say book a stay and see a play in Duncanville, and if you visit our website, there's more details on that. We do offer 50% discount to anyone staying in a Duncanville hotel. That's on our website, and we deliver coupons to each of the hotels. All but 2 of the hotels accepted those coupons too, said that their corporate rules prohibited them from taking the coupons. Email blast. I think most of you are signed up for our email blast, but we do at least 2 per show. Like I said, once again, those go out all over the place. Right now, today, I do have the data with me. Today, I think I say approximately 800 in our information, and that once again changes. Today, I did a count at 3 o'clock, and it's at 774 folks signed up for our emails. Our Facebook posts, we have Dawn McCallum is our social media liaison. She's our director of community relations and my operations assistant, and she is amazing with Facebook and does cool things and reaches out to, like I said, we have folks all over the world who have responded to that. Postcards, you think, does anybody do snail mail? Yes, as I said, we have 277 and they still want that. We have a lot of people who sign up for both email and postcards. They want both. They want to put that postcard on their refrigerator, and then they want the email as well to remind them. Our tourism impact. By offering quality entertainment close to local hotels and restaurants, DCT helps to make Duncanville a more attractive location for tourists to visit. Many of our out-of-town family members and friends of DCT performers stay in Duncanville hotels when attending shows. And out-of-town patrons dine at Duncanville restaurants, purchase gas when visiting DCT, and positive experiences have prompted some of them to return and stay in the hotels when they're attending non-DCT events. We actually have some receipts that we provided to Jessica in our post-event reports where that has happened for Thanksgiving and some other activities like that. I will admit that we lost 2 hotel rooms during lunch with Mrs. Baskin, one of our cast members. Parents traveled from Kansas City, Missouri, and I was so excited and said, we need to make sure they stay in a Duncanville hotel, and they got a better rate on Priceline in a DeSoto hotel. But we tried. Once again, I was trying to coerce them, but I wasn't able to do that. Where does our funding come from? And I think this is important to show. Our hotel occupancy tax last year, this is based on last year's funds, was 37% of our income. However, 32% is ticket sales, 32% is donations, and 1% is workshop fees, interest from banks, and that kind of thing, not actually fairly inconsequential there. But I think it's important to see that our membership donations, our loyal patrons, and our ticket sales comprise the bulk of our income for the year. I want to introduce our season. We'll be doing Your Good Man, Charlie Brown in July. We'll be doing the trip to Bountiful in September. A Christmas Carol in November. And when we say we do new and untried works, you think, well, then A Christmas Carol is not new. No, it is not, but we are doing a brand new adaptation. One of our board members is a playwright. He had 2 plays of his at UL One Plays State Contest this year. One of them won. He's well known, and he has adapted, done a new adaptation for A Christmas Carol using 6 actors who play all the roles, and we will be the premiere of that. Love, Sex, and the IRS. I know it sounds a little naughty, but it's really just fun. Come and see it. That's our Valentine's show. It's great fun for everybody. Murder by Natural Causes. That will be our murder mystery in March, and we'll end the season with the Savannah Sipping Society. It's a great fun comedy. It's an all-female cast, and it's over Mother's Day weekend. Should be a great time for people to come out. Producing shows, fundraising, marketing, workshops, and more, our mission remains the same. We're founded in 1988 on the belief that the arts are a vital ingredient in a well-rounded community, and we are still thriving today, bringing quality live theater to Duncanville and the entire Best Southwest area. One of the things that I would have loved to have done tonight, if I could have brought Dorada in from Roma's, one time I went over there during, I believe it was the February show, and I said, how's it going? And they were swamped. Of course, they're swamped on a show night. And all of our patrons like to go over there and eat. They also eat at the Rice Pot. They eat at Papa Do's. But Roma seems to be a favorite. And I went in and she said, oh, I have to tell you, this couple was here from Plano. And they were going on and on about how they come to all the shows and they come here and they eat and they love to come here and this is one of their favorite things to do. I said, I wish I had a record right now. So while we don't put a ton of heads in beds, we said 10. We actually know that we put 12 this season. When the information was due, it was due on May 9th, and we had one more show in our season. So we did pick up a couple more rooms. So we did have 12 rooms that we can verify. There might have been others, but it's very difficult to track that as a community theater. So one other thing that we are doing for next season that is in my budget is we actually have taken out an ad in the Waco Civic Theater program, their playbill for the entire season. It's a half-page ad encouraging patrons who like theater to come to Duncanville and stay at one of our hotels that were easy access to downtown and other areas in the Metroplex. And once again, if they decide to see a play, they can get 50% off their tickets. I'm open to any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
I attended the show. It was good.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and then our app.
Wait,
Oh, I'm
Jessica,
sorry.
wait a
I'm
minute.
sorry.
Johnny.
I apologize. Oh, did you have a question?
I'm sorry. I did not see you live.
Amy,
Not working.
I believe that she has a question.
Is the reason why you chose Waco newspaper because you graduated from Baylor?
Absolutely. There's a
I thought
blurb in
so.
there that says you'll see several Baylor folk on stage and behind the stage. Kevin Paris, who directs for us, is a Baylor graduate. I am. We have a couple of other technicians that are Baylor grads, and I felt like we'd get return on the investment there.
Okay.
Notice she's wearing green, too.
Well, I am. It's true. Sick embarrassed.
And then our last applicant is Mary Faye Cam, and she's with the Museum of International Cultures.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council and Mr. Hugman and our attorney, Mr. Hager. We are very excited this year because we have a wonderful sign. I had someone drop in, actually, because they saw the sign today. They were from Kentucky, and they were going down Highway 67. They had not intended to stop at a museum. They were on their way to Hillsborough, but they saw this, and they had a little bit of extra time, so they came in. And I told them how excited I was that someone from Kentucky had stopped in. But we regularly have people that are on their way somewhere else, and now that they can see that sign, It's very exciting for us, and we are certainly in your debt for being so foresighted and to provide the funding for that, because we are, although our messages have not gotten up on the digital, but they will be by next week, we are getting comments that they're seeing our sign, and that's exciting for us. You'll note that we have put Area Visitors Information Center. That in no way is any kind of competition or anything in the community. We simply want for people to stop, since those 100,000 cars go up and down Highway 67, and any visitors, and we regularly advertise AAA. It's a free advertisement, but we have paid advertisements in Drive Guide, Drive Texas, Authentic Texas, and oh, good Lord, I can't think of the other one, but 4 of our major tourism magazines, we regularly advertise in those, and they're placed in the hotels in our area. But like Drive Texas is all over Texas, and Drive Guide is all over the United States, are in places, and we regularly get people that have seen those. And some quarters we put in some discounts or something so that we can track on exactly who's there. So we're hoping that as we progress now with signage and what have you, more people will stop in and pick up a packet of material that we have. We try to keep information about local food places, because so many of our tours obviously are children, so they won't know where the fast food places are. But I recently had 60 students from Wiley that came down for the day, and this was a big excursion for them, and they had lunch at Genghis Grill. And so that was quite a hunk, because I know what their costs are. So with 60 students, most of the time they're in fast foods, but it was good to have them at that place. But we did want to, again, just say thank you. You can see in that beautiful green tag up there, I want you to note, and we have some of our exhibits running on that, but when the announcements are coming very soon, that will be another way of advertising some of the things that are happening in the community, as well as what's happening at the museum. Of course, this is the facade. As a matter of fact, it still says International Museum of Cultures, but Chuck Chambers promised my husband last week in Atlanta that he would be here this next week to switch those letters out. I was afraid to let anyone but Chuck do it, since he put them up, and I sure didn't want the building damaged. But our mission statement is there. It continues to be the same as it has been for the past 37 years. We are a world culture, and we have the opportunity to share our culture as well as see the cultures of all of the other cultures around the world. As a matter of fact, these are a part of our Han people of China, and they're probably some of our most authentic mannequins, because so often someone will take a double take when they see these people. They're very well done by a local artist. And tours are our bread and butter. This is John Wilhite, and he is a world traveler. He's an armchair anthropologist, does an incredible job, as do all of our docents. All of our docents are world travelers, and so we're very proud that they come in with groups such as this. We often have 150 at a time, and we are able to manage the 150 because of the capability of our docents and the use of the community room, which seats such a large number. And this is just another one of the glimpses of one of our exhibits. This was an exhibit that was given to us by a teacher that was retiring over in East Dallas, and he had taught Cambodian dance because he had so many Cambodians in his classroom. And when he retired, he said he knew of our interest, so he shared that collection with us. Then, of course, our premier program that we launched just I guess about 4 years ago, is our discovery boxes. Our discovery boxes are subject specific, and they travel to schools all over the area. We even had some as far as Longview last year, they asked, and so we shipped
the box down to them, and they shipped it back to us after it'd been there a week. But most of the time, it's within driving distance, and so we deliver to them and pick it up. But we're very proud of them, and we will be launching 2 additional subjects where we have a STEAM program that meshes with our exhibits. And then this year, as you know, we've done the World War I observance, and it has been so successful. Teachers as well as students come in because they only have 1 paragraph in their textbooks any longer. So they stop and really spend a lot of time in this World War I exhibit. And so we're going to do a box that will go to the schools because this observance will be going on through 2019. Very good. Oh, this is the things that are coming soon, the 2 that I just told you. This is our world anthropology, and that's one that we, schools most often will try out the world anthropology and then go into some of the other specifics. And then this is one of our very most successful programs. It's our gift to the community. There's no charge to attend, and Dr. Ann and Tim Perry host this on the 4th Saturday evening of each month. One month you'll be a cultural film with dialogue concerning the film, and then the next month will be a dinner with either a lecture or entertainment, music, dance, whatever. And they'll run between 30 and 50 at those functions, and they come from all over. So but one evening I was at one, and I was seated at a table, and the people at the table came from 5 different countries. I just couldn't believe I had sat down with a table where there were 5 different countries and cultures represented. But this is a marvelous program. I encourage you to come and visit us. And this is simply our statement that while we obviously don't put heads on beds to any great degree, we fill the local fast food places. And I guess our general fund finds that, but no matter what, as a city for which we're very proud, we like to be sure that we keep them in our city as long as we can, and any of these other activities that are happened only enhances. These figures are just for the first 6 months, and we had already had 28 foreign visitors, so we're looking, and we have, last year we had people from Dubai, and they joined the museum, and they monthly contact us to see what we're doing. So I thought that was exciting. And if you have any questions or have time to come visit us, we'd be delighted to have you at the museum. I can answer any questions. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to, we love our signs, so come see us.
So council, that concludes the presentations from the applicants this evening, and we are not asking for a vote at this time. We will come back in July with a recommendation. And so at this time, I'll answer any final questions that you may have.
I have one.
Go ahead.
On the slides, you had the impact of the event to the community.
Yes, sir.
So is that not just Duncanville? Is that Southwest? What is community?
We really try to focus on the Duncanville area, but some of that is an overflow to the surrounding area. It's not into the entire Metroplex, but we really try to keep that local. That's why typically what we do is there's a percentage that we take in terms of actual people who kind of are consolidated to this area versus maybe staying in DeSoto or that type of thing. So we do not account for any hotels that are used outside of Duncanville specifically.
So the $500,000 that the Smoking Blues, the impact they had on the community, that was not all to Duncanville. It could
Okay,
be
and the $500,000 was for the Gasso event.
Yes, you're correct. Right. Smoking Blues was 300-some thousand.
That is correct.
So is that not all to Duncanville?
Well, the $300,000, the majority of that would be because that also includes their fees that they have to spend to get into the gate, their gate fees, as well as with the vendors and the money that's spent there. So, yes, we try to say that is Duncanville or a very close-knit area. So, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number F is to take any necessary action as a result of the executive session we had.
There's no formal action on either
No formal
item.
action to take, so.
There was one, a policy. We did discuss a policy.
There was some discussion about,
To direct staff to come, or you to come up with policy.
yeah, we can do, I think that would be appropriate. It's not any action against any
Okay.
individual. I said there was no action against any individual, but as a result of reviewing the item with the council, they determined that they would like maybe some direction with regard to future policies with regard to the issues that were involved in that manner.
Okay. Item number 6 is to receive fire department quarterly report and work plan updates.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, City Manager. Wish to thank y'all for having the Fire Department's quarterly report. First thing I'd like to do is introduce you guys to, and ladies, is to our 3 newest firefighters that we hired back on May the 1st. We have John Cook, Tristan Spray, and Clint Thomas. They're all firefighter EMTs. And in their future, they have paramedic school in storage. So they have a long way to go before we can use them as a full-fledged paramedic on an ambulance. With those 3 hires, they have already gone in through orientation and been through our training process. So we use them now in our staffing for riding the fire engines. That leaves us with 2 vacancies that we need to still need to fill. And we gave a civil service exam on the 10th of June. And they, the candidates who passed, we had 11 that we tested through our physical agility. They should have their personal history statements back to us on this Friday. And then what we'll do is we'll go in there and we'll review those packets and set up a schedule for them to come in and do an interview. Also, we had one of our firefighters finish paramedic school. He finished that at Brookhaven College, and he finished that on May 24th. He's supposed to go take his National Registry exam tomorrow. Once he gets that done and it's past that, then we can apply for his state certification so he can go ahead and he can start riding the ambulance too. We also, Monday, we had 4 of our firefighters that are going to have started paramedic school. They're actually in A&P school this week, and then they'll graduate from that and they'll start attending paramedic school. We probably won't receive them back as a useful hand until probably January of 18. As y'all are aware, we had 2 retirements. Our assistant chief retired, and one of our on-duty captains retired, so we had to go in there and replace these 2 individuals. So we had to go in and do a promotional exam. I'd like to introduce 2 of our newest captains. They were engineers at the time. Adam Langan and Kevin Bragg, they're filled those positions now. And then we had 2 engineer positions open up. And we filled that with firefighter paramedics James Self and firefighter paramedic Kyle Underwood. We also had some accomplishments that the fire department is very excited about. We had 2 firefighter paramedics attend Collin County Community College for our community paramedicine program. They were firefighter paramedic Stephen Pogue and firefighter paramedic Martin Garcia, and they're going to be instrumental in starting our program off in the community, getting our policies set up so we can get that program off the road. Again, your EMS program is an award-winning program, which I'm very, very proud of. Our EMS division chief, Mike Ryan, fights hard to make sure that program's award-winning. Again, we won the American Heart Association's Mission Lifeline Award this year for STEMI and stroke activations. And also, we got an award from CareFlight for our great responders, Jason Wigginton, engineer James Leary, firefighter paramedic Patrick Stubbs, firefighter paramedic Brent Neighbors, and firefighter paramedic Micah Shaw were the recipients of this reward. And they got that for saving the life of a young child who had a rare heart condition and collapsed at one of our facilities. And the best thing about this, it was good. This young child came in later with his family and thanked everyone in the fire department who was involved in saving his life. So it was good to see somebody show up and you know, actually be able to thank us for the efforts that we did. We had a First Responder Appreciation Awards. Captain Adam Langan and Executive Assistant Lacey Freeman got a commendation from the United States Senate at the third annual First Responder Appreciation Celebration. And they were recognized for the success of the Duncanville Fire Department's Wellness and Fitness Program. If those are not familiar with that, Lacey was instrumental in writing a firefighter assistance grant, and she got the department $79,000 to apply to exercise equipment, training, and some of the facilities. So we were real proud of Lacey getting that grant. Also, she applied this year for the Assistant to Firefighter grant, and this time she got $128,786, and that was to purchase 2 life packs. And those who are not familiar with the Life Pack 15, that's our monitor defibrillator that we use to look at EKG rhythms, and we use that to defibrillate and capnography and all these medical terms. The thing that we're really like to see is we got these 4 Lucas devices. And that Lucas device is going to be instrumental in helping us during CPR, because what that is it's a CPR compression device, and it makes it more efficient and more effective when we do our CPR, and it keeps the rhythm and keeps the rate at a constant rate, whereas when we were doing it manually, the firefighter would get tired and they're getting thrown all over the back of the ambulance. So this is going to be a little more stable, more efficient and effective, and these have proven to be pretty instrumental in saving some lives. We also have partnered with our police department, and we've sent 2 of our firefighter paramedics to tactical medic school, and they're going to be working with our TAC team in the PD to provide the medical side of the program. And we also, if y'all are going to see, I'm going to bring it down here and show it off to y'all's new ambulance that we received. They're just waiting to final prep on it. I think the community's really going to enjoy this ambulance because we put a new ride system in it, and hopefully they'll get a lot smoother ride, because that's one of the things we've really had a lot of complaints about is the ride in the back of those ambulances. So we're working forward to really provide a good comfort for our citizens that need to use that ambulance.
Sam, is that an MICU? Is that
Yes, sir. That's all we drive. In our emergency management, myself and Tanya Hunter, the emergency management operations coordinator, attended that conference in San Antonio. And then we also were pretty proud. We had 3 fellows that came over from Indonesia and that area, and they came over and they were observing our emergency operations center, and they toured our fire stations, and they toured the city. And then we took them also over to Southwest Regional Communications Center to see how we dispatched. And one thing they really made remarks about is how fortunate we are to have the regional cooperation that we have in this area, because over in their area, they said they don't have a lot of cooperation with their fellow countries. So they were amazed to see that cooperation that we have in this area. We also had a Silver Summit. It was hosted by the Senior Solutions, and it brought together, again, Lancaster and Cedar Hill and DeSoto and Duncanville, and we hosted it in our rec center in Duncanville, and it was to help our seniors with emergency preparedness and let them know that if we have to evacuate or something like that, that we need to have contact with them to help them evacuate, or if they need oxygen, or if they need some type of electrical for any kind of medical device they have, that we're available and we're going to track, and that's going to be part of our emergency community paramedicine program. And then we had 2 fires this quarter, and one of them that was noteworthy was the one on Crescent, and it's just a feel-good thing because of the fact we had a little fire that the dog, he passed away, and our paramedics got a hold of that dog, and they went ahead and they intubated that dog and put a tube down his lungs, and got that dog back. and helped him with his oxygen, and he recovered. So that made us feel good, the fire department, that we not only do we take care of human beings, we take care of dogs, so or any other kind of animal that we can. So we're happy with that. The talent of our firefighters. We're never trained to intubate animals and dogs, right? So I was proud of them that they got that dog intubated. Our total calls for service in this quarter was 2,197. The fire-related calls for service, we had 46. Building fires, 21. Other related calls for service, 479. EMS calls for service, 1,651. You notice that that's the majority of our calls is our EMS call. We probably run 75 to 80% of our calls are EMS calls. And then our Fire Prevention Bureau did 327 business inspections during that quarter. And with that, do y'all have any questions for me?
Sam, yes, I want, you took possession of the MICU, and you've also got the Quint coming in.
Yes, sir.
Would you tell the citizens what we paid for those? I want to let them know what their tax dollars do. Okay.
The ambulance actually cost us $262,000, but that includes a load system in the back of the ambulance, and what that's for is that will come out and it'll pick up the power cot, and our population is getting heavier and heavier, so it's where we need that cot to pick up the weight sometimes. So, and that being the case, this system will come out and will pick this cot up and pull it up into the system. Into the back of the ambulance. And then we also got a LifePak 15 with that device. So a whole bunch of that money is involved with trying to save wear and tear on my firefighters and try to get some other units so we can, provide our medical care. The Quint, we won't receive that till probably September, early October. And the price tag on that is $968,000. And then that still doesn't include the equipment that goes on that rig, the hose and your nozzles and rescue tools and stuff.
So it would be about $1.2 million.
Yeah, you're pretty close, Mayor. You're pretty close. But on the other hand, these vehicles are not a one-year expenditure. It's one of these deals. That Quint, when we get that, will be a capital expenditure that we'll keep for 10 years frontline service, and then we'll keep it 10 years in reserve service. The ambulance, we have been running them 5 years frontline service and 5 years reserve service. Now I think we're going to bump it back to 4 years just because we're starting to see a lot of wear and tear on our ambulances. So we're getting money out of it. It's depreciated over the years.
And these were purchased without debt?
That's correct. That's correct. Vehicle Replacement Fund takes care of that, thanks to Richard.
Anybody else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That concludes the business on our agenda tonight, so it is now 9:45 and we stand adjourned.